Hi, welcome to my channel. Today I'm here to talk about the mission stories within the final DLC content of Hitman 2, The Last Resort. In case you're new to the series, Hitman is a third-person stealth game where you're dropped into a huge map with multiple targets for you to kill in creative ways. Before I start the mission, I want to discuss the mission stories themselves. Mission stories are a traditional guided mission you might find in a linear game such as Titanfall 2 for example. You follow objectives such as breaking into a restricted area, finding an item, knocking someone out, etc. There are a fair few of them in every mission, and I personally think they're an amazing way of introducing the map and the opportunities of the map to the player. You're given the freedom to do it your way. For example, there might be an objective to get some item within a restricted area, and that's it. So, what do? Do you find some back entrance and sneak in when the guards aren't looking? Do you find some secret underground tunnel, then make it through there? Or maybe you realise that there's a locked door and you happen to have a lockpick which you chose during your loadout. That's not even going into what you do from there. They're like a tutorial, but unobtrusive. Just a side note, I haven't actually played this mission before, so you'll be seeing my personal gameplay with no prior knowledge, which is more authentic to how any other player will go through a mission, really. Right, let's move on to the story. A lucrative opportunity. So, I start the mission with just one starting location. I spawn on a pier, and the first thing I notice, other than the artist's amazing job, is that one of my targets is walking right in front of me, which means I could, in theory, take her out right now. It's almost like the player is being teased. They know that they could just finish her off right now and be done with a third of the mission, but if they were to do that, they'd get instantly spotted or end up gunning down her innocent bodyguards, completely ruining our score. Clearly, the best choice right now is to be patient, and that is something this game is constantly teaching. The first objective puts me towards a hut just to the left of where I spawn, so I make my way over. There's a man out front, but he doesn't look like a guard. He's not wearing a guard uniform, and there's no warning when we walk past him. This is one thing that Hitman does very well. If the player isn't allowed in an area, they will be explicitly warned. First by the guards standing outside, then if they try and walk past them, the guards will gesture for them to stop and turn around. Other games, such as Payday 2 as an example, might just get enemies to attack you as soon as you get past the invisible wall, but this game does not, and even if the player was just not paying attention, the guards will point their weapons at them and then give them a second chance to leave. It's just a really good way of showing the player that they're allowed to explore without being worried if they accidentally go into the wrong place without sneaking in. Moving on, I walk towards the hut. Luckily I've brought a lockpick with me so I can make my way inside. Once inside, I need to grab the note and ring the first target's phone. I get some context that she wants to meet up, so I better make my way over to her. Fast forward, I sit down with a Trover as she mentions some story. Long story short, I need to steal back a USB stick from one of the other target's basement without getting caught. This is where I actually get to play. Walking along the wooden roads away from the resort and towards its marker, and one thing that is evident is that there is a huge amount of foliage. Why is this relevant? Because you can use bushes as cover to hide yourself and to hide bodies. This is really highlighted on the way to the villa, and it feels to me like the level designers were trying to specifically push that in the player's face to give them an opportunity to make that assumption. Moving on, and I'm no longer in the resort portion of the map. There are two guards standing in front of the entrance to the villa, and if I approach, the guard puts his hands out to tell me to stop. I appreciate how the guards here are wearing red shirts as well. It really puts an emphasis on the fact that they're a threat. It's instinctual. Despite the fact that I've played this game a fair amount, I imagine a new player would instantly know to keep away. After this little display, it's clear that trying to push through the guards is going to get me attacked, or draw attention. This is the point where the player will need to decide what to do. The first time our real choices come up. Should I try and knock the guards out and walk in through the front door? Should I find another entrance and get in that way? Or maybe I could search for a disguise which will stop the guards from attacking me. The thing about this game is that those three options are all completely valid and all of them can be done successfully. Not just that, but going back to the challenges system, I can even choose to do it an easier way if we're newer to the game, such as by spawning inside the villa wearing a disguise or using certain items. The player can even do the opposite and give themselves a little challenge, like not using disguises at all, and they'll be rewarded with more score at the end of the mission. I've chosen to look for another entrance, and looking towards the right side of the building, it almost seems more closed off. full of dense foliage and the guards are looking forward, which, to me, makes it seem harder, since I'll be in the guards' line of sight. As a player, I was drawn to the left side as it seems less restrictive and with fewer people, so my thought was to go that way, towards the beach. Following the wall of the villa around, I can see a door, and it's almost unguarded. The only things in the way are a camera and the door itself. In Hitman 2, they introduced a visible depiction of where security cameras are looking, so I just wait for the camera to turn out of the way and I walk up to the door, hiding in the bushes. Speaking of the camera, due to how cameras are often shown as a threat in other stealth games, I assume that most new players will know to avoid them, but just like with the guards, the cameras give the player a second chance even if they're spotted. If they're spotted and haven't done anything too suspicious, such as killed someone or dragged a body in front of it, they will have the option to find the security room and destroy the evidence. That way, the player doesn't lose their 20,000 score bonus at the end of the mission. The only punishment is searching for it. Since I'm using a lockpick to break in, I think it's worth discussing the item. When the player doesn't have a lockpick with them, they have to find the key for the door or find another way inside. It's quite a large advantage to have it on you. The game makes it more difficult if you don't. It's a safe choice for any player and it's tremendously helpful, and I think that is why this game gives it to you so early. Moving on, and there's a camera on the other side as well. I can see the green pattern that's moving on the floor. I can walk past it when its blind spot becomes a path and we're almost forced into a bush. It seems like the safest place for the player to be in this situation, especially as there are a guard right in front of them, and being in the open means the player is easier to spot. Luckily, the guard is looking away from the entrance. It's a small thing, but it reiterates that we're no longer in a safe place. The minimap displays this to the hostile area too, but that guard is the first thing the player will notice, since it's in the middle of their screen. And it's a good thing it is, because a player could have just not been to the front gates and just stumbled in here with a lockpick since the game is approachable from multiple angles. I can see that the mission marker is underground, so by making assumptions I can figure out that I should probably find some staircase going down, but first I need to get inside. I end up walking around the villa trying to see a safe place to get inside and decide that I want to go to the other side of the door, but don't want to get seen by the camera. I then shoot the camera here with my silenced pistol, forgetting that there's a guard right next to it. Once I realised this, I was expecting him to walk over and investigate so that I could take him out before I realised he just turned around again. I think this specific situation would have been really cool had he actually walked over. The guard would have completely exposed himself to be knocked out by the player in a place where he would not have been seen. I think this could have been a great tutorial moment, but either way, in the very least this might make the player think about that opportunity and then get them to lure him over to take him out and then take his uniform. Continuing up the west side of the building, I'm stopped by a cleaner that's in my way. Without an appropriate disguise, she'll spot me if I'm seen. This is indicated by the white dot above her head and on the minimap. So I take her out instead of risking it. Then I need to hide her body, and we're better than the bushes I've been crawling through for the past 2 minutes. I know that we're safe from being spotted there, and we're not seeing any guards hanging around by them so far, so it seems like a pretty safe bet for the player to use. After hiding the body, I have the choice of going up the stairs, going to the pool, or going inside the villa. Because of the way the objective is, I choose to go inside rather than up, and I see no reason to go to the pool unless I want to be spotted. In this little room, I can hide behind this wall since there doesn't seem to be anyone on this side. We're still prone to being spotted, and the only safe way past this room seems to be to take out the people on the other side. Very conveniently, you can see that there is a container lit up in yellow when I go into X-ray or Eagle Vision, whatever it's called. And there's also a vacuum cleaner on this side of the wall which I can switch on. Switching this on will make it so that an NPC nearby will investigate it. This section seems so perfectly made for taking out targets. You lure one of the characters over with the vacuum, which will separate them, and then you take them down individually, and then you stuff them into the box. It's like a perfect solution to a perfect puzzle. You could try and get past them, but since there's two and they're moving, it's quite the risk. After I take out one of the NPCs, I can grab his uniform, and now I can wander around a large portion of the villa with few people trying to stop me. Going outside of the room, there's a huge open area. In stealth games, generally you should avoid open areas since you can so easily get spotted from somewhere you didn't expect. So I move on to the next room, and when I enter, I can see a room with a guard sitting on a chair distracted by a book, a large fish tank dividing the room in two, a cleaner and a guard watching the cleaner. The interesting part of this room though is the painting between the guard and the cleaner. It really draws attention since the colours are so much brighter compared to the bookshelves next to it, and it almost seems lit up. Some of the parts of the bookshelf are so dark you can barely see them, but this painting very clearly stands out, and there's another reason for that as well. It's like a cliche to have a secret door behind a bookcase. My marker says I should go directly down. The painting is touching the floor and is the size of a door, and there are also gold idols on the bookshelf which I can grab. If I move towards one of the idols, I can see that there's a prompt to pull a book and that we'll get in trouble for that action. This is clearly a door to a secret room, and I'm sure it leads to the basement where this mission is telling me to go. I need to figure out how to get inside without being caught by any of the NPCs in this room, another fork in the road for the player to solve. I eventually ended up lowering the guard outside and taking him out before doing the same to the cleaner. Then, after opening the secret door, stuffing them inside, since I wasn't certain it was safe for them to stay knocked out outside. In the secret room is a nice disguise for me to grab, so I do, then go downstairs. I make my way into the secret basement and into a locker room where there is one guard. Luckily there's a place to store unconscious people, so this section is as simple as knocking him out, stuffing him in a locker. The USB device we're looking for is in one of these lockers, and it's one that needs a key. The player can take it out with a lockpick if they have one, but if they don't, then they have to find the key itself, which is being held by the thief. Without the lockpick, you have to find out who the thief is and where they are. On this occasion though, the thief happens to walk in the room just as I'm about to use my lockpick. I knock her out, take the key and open the locker. I enjoy how the designers made it so that when you make it to the heart of a base, like we've just done here, you gradually rise up the ranks by knocking out more important people and taking their uniforms. At this point I have a higher up guard's uniform because I've gone so far into this base, and because of that it means I can essentially go wherever I want to, which makes getting out of the base a lot easier than getting inside since I could just walk out. It also means I could march almost right up to the man in charge of this villa and I wouldn't get caught. It's almost comparable to the progression of an RPG where you get better loot which lets you fight better monsters. I enjoy it as a progression system, and it means that even when you're done with a location, it becomes a lot more open to you. So, I have the item I need, I've walked back through the front gates with no issue, and my target has been called. I go and meet her at the spa. She allows us into a room without any guards. This is the perfect chance for the player to take her out with no one seeing. Your reward. Not just that, if you give her the USB, she'll turn her back on the player and lean on some railing over the water, spouting some dialogue. I went for the elimination this story is practically begging for the player to take, and that is by pushing her off the railing to fall 3 feet into water to kill her. Yeah, whatever. I'm just going to ignore that. But either way, that's one of the 3 targets down. That's your reward at the end of the story, an easy kill. The story starts off slow and works its way up. It doesn't play like a traditional get out of the way tutorial, but when you get into it, it leaves you to do what you want and lets the level itself be the tutorial. It starts off by pushing you to the villa, making you visit the guards, walk through bushes, which you should be using to hide yourself and bodies. It puts you in an enclosed space for distraction, 2 NPCs and a hiding box that makes you figure it out. It's like a slowly evolving puzzle that I feel pushes the player to get through this linear experience without making it feel linear. Thanks for watching. I hope you got something out of it, and if you did, I'd appreciate a like. My next video is going to be something other than Hitman 2, so if you got any suggestions, please send them, and hopefully I'll see you then.